Hi, welcome to the August weather trend forecast, the final month of the meteorological summer, and it's been a very interesting season so far. Here are a few statistics. Warm really sums it up, and dry. We've had 9 days when temperatures have reached or exceeded 30 Celsius. I'm old enough to remember when even getting to 30 Celsius in a UK summer was quite notable. Not anymore. It seems like we just breeze past it these days. And of course, a new UK record, 40.3 Celsius at Coningsby, Lincolnshire. The first time that 40 Celsius has ever been recorded in the UK. But for many people, it may well be the lack of rain which becomes a notable feature as we head through the next few weeks. June, 76% of UK average, and July, 56%. There have been big regional variations though, and in recent weeks it has been particularly dry in southern counties. So is that set to continue? I'll take a look first of all at the view across Europe and the North Atlantic. I'll run this animation out to 10 days ahead. That's a little bit further than I'll normally go with a deterministic model run, but I think it illustrates some of the possible developments as we head towards the middle of the month. So here we go. High pressure dominates to begin with, and that really stays the same through the coming days. At times, disturbances brush across the northwest, perhaps more widely across the north of the UK, bringing some rain. Southern and central counties stay dry. But then, through the last couple of days, so the 13th, 14th, 15th, cooler air moves down from the northwest as the area of high pressure becomes centred in the Atlantic. That's just one possible scenario, and it's a long, long way ahead. The key thing to note there is that high pressure looks like dominating the UK's weather for much of the first half of August. And what that means for the temperatures, well, it's going to depend on exactly where it becomes centred, but there's good agreement from most of the computer models for it to warm up significantly, especially in southern and central regions. Here's an illustration, Wednesday the 10th, maximums into the low 30s there in south and southeastern England, cooler in the northwest, but still pleasantly warm. And some of the computer model runs are taking those temperatures a little bit higher, even towards mid 30s Celsius. I certainly would not rule out that scenario. Now, moving forwards to Sunday the 14th of August, if that cooler air does move down from the north, values like this may become more commonplace. So mid-20s still along the south coast, but a lot cooler in most areas, upper teens, low 20s. But as I say, a good deal of uncertainty about whether or not that will be how things play out. The key message is high pressure being in charge. And that's emphasised by the MOGREPS plot for York, which shows the mean surface level pressure forecast from all of the runs of the MOGREPS G ensemble. Of course, this is the model which the UK Met Office runs. Pressure there, 1030 millibars, or thereabouts, just a little bit below. Through the coming days, all the runs very, very closely packed together. Towards the end, so for 10th of August onwards, there is a downwards trend. More of the individual ensemble members show pressure falling. Nonetheless, really it still looks as though pressure is probably going to be close to or above the average in York and probably in southern parts of the UK as well, because the high pressure centre is building from the west and the southwest. It looks like it may well be remaining dry in much of the UK through this period. And this chart also from the MOGREPS ensemble shows upper air temperatures, so 850 HPA level, approximately 1500 metres above sea level, a very clear trend upwards as we go through the first third of the month. Anything really above 10 Celsius at this level can lead to very warm conditions down at the surface, and by the 10th of August there and beyond, a lot of runs are close to the 15 Celsius level, indicating that down at the ground level, low 30s Celsius would be very, very possible with this type of air mass over the UK, at least in the southern half of Britain. I mentioned rain, and here are the deterministic 10-day snapshots from the ECM model on the left, GFS on the right. Key takeaway, as it has been for quite a long period, is in southern Britain it's mostly or completely dry. Lots of 0 mm totals being shown on both of those charts. No end in sight to the drought conditions which have now developed in much of the south. Even in the north it looks quite dry on the whole, just really western Scotland, northern Scotland, where there is significantly more rain being forecast. Well, that takes us towards the middle of August, but what about the rest of the month? As ever, at this range, it's just about trying to determine the direction of travel. Will it be warmer or cooler than the norm, wetter or drier? I'll start with the 16-day GEFS ensemble plot for London. Across the top, air mass temperatures, and at first glance, the signal seems very straightforward. Thick purple line there, the ensemble mean, stays above the thick black line, the 30-year norm. But just taking a look at this in a little bit more depth suggests some degree of uncertainty, because the individual lines there are spreading out very significantly indeed, a wide range of solutions being served up. At the lower end of the ensemble, runs are dipping down to maybe 2, 3 or 4 Celsius, and at the top, a number climb above that 20 Celsius marker. Really quite an extraordinary level of warmth. Go back 30 years or so, and 15 Celsius was often considered notable. Now it seems as though over 20 Celsius is becoming the norm for hot conditions in the UK. A big change if that is the case. Remember, these values are at about 1,500 meters above our heads. So very, very significant, the warming trend, I would say, in recent decades in the UK. Along the bottom, rainfall and only a few spikes showing up there. It suggests that dry conditions are likely to be continuing through this period. There could be some rain around, but most of those runs are keeping things dry, just for a change. The 2 meter temperatures, so these are the ones which we experienced down at the ground level. Also from the GEFS model, through this period, there's an ongoing amount of pink, runs going for over 30 Celsius. It decreases later, but even at the very end, there's still 2 or 3 runs in the set, which are suggesting it. Reds there as well, 26 to 30 Celsius, so very warm. The light oranges, 21 to 25, and the yellows, a few of those, and then at the very end, their number increases. Taking that as a whole, it's suggesting the chance of a cooling trend, or at least less warm, less hot conditions towards the middle of August and perhaps a little bit beyond it, but a good deal of uncertainty. And I think much depends on where the high pressure becomes centred. If it sits itself to the west of the UK, that will allow cooler air to feed down from the north. The cooling trend is a little bit clearer on the European ensemble data table. Initially, quite a lot of the pinks, over 30 Celsius forecasts, but those decrease and the number of the oranges increases over 21 to 25s and the 16s to 20. There's even a little bit of yellow there later on, just 1 or 2 runs going into the 11 to 15 Celsius bucket. It's worth remembering with the European ensemble, it contains 50 members as opposed to the 30 in the GEFS. So it does give more scope to throw out some 1 or 2 extreme solutions. But again, the consistency is quite good. Something of a cooling trend possibly there towards the middle of August and just beyond it. As I say, it's all to do with the positioning of the high pressure, I think. Going up to Glasgow and the GEFS data across the top. Again, the ensemble mean often a little bit above the thick black line, the 30-year norm, a big spread as well. Everything here, though, seems to be shifted down. The anomaly is much smaller than it was on the London plot. So although there is a sign there of it being a little bit warmer than average at the 850 HPA level, it's not a given, and for more runs dipping below that 30-year norm. So a weaker signal, cooler though as you head northwestwards relative to the averages. Across the bottom, the rainfall, and clearly from more spikes on this plot, especially from around about the 15th onwards, indicating a greater risk of rain. More typical conditions in the northwest, probably due to more of an Atlantic influence, whereas high pressure really drives things further south. 2-metre temperatures for Glasgow from the GEFS. Lots of orange in there, 16s to 20, some of the 21 to 25 as well, and a little bit of a red just at the outset there. Just one run, I think, going for the 26 to 30 Celsius. Clearly a cooler scenario, again, relative to the local averages, but if anything, perhaps just maybe dropping a little bit later on. Some the yellows increase in a fraction, but all in all, not a great deal of change through the week through this period in the north, whereas in the south, the cooling trend was more marked, and that's echoed on the ECM ensemble plot for Glasgow. Perhaps the cooling trend here is more apparent than it was on the GEFS, but it's a weaker one than in the south. And as I say, I think that's really because in the north, there's more chance of an ongoing Atlantic influence, which is moderating those temperatures throughout. But even so, early on, quite warm potentially there in the northwest. Well, that takes us through to about the 20th of the month. What about the final third? Using the GEFS 35-day plots to look at some of the possibilities. Here's the London chart showing air mass temperatures. The purple line there again represents the ensemble mean. The 30-year norm again is a black line. Clearly, most of the runs are staying above the 30-year average, and if anything, the trend towards the end of the month, maybe through the last week, is upwards. So the cooling, which may happen around or just after mid-August, could be offset towards the end of the month with higher temperatures once more returning. Glasgow, once more, the anomaly here is smaller than on the London chart. The thick purple line, the ensemble mean, just fluctuating around the 30-year average through that last 10 days. The pressure plot for London is suggesting, the ensemble mean at least, that above average pressure is more likely than below average. So even towards the end of the month, high pressure could well be a very, very important player in the UK's weather, especially across the southern half of the country. Here's the pressure anomaly chart. It's not exactly the pressure anomaly which has been shown here, but we can think of it as that. It's a height anomaly chart, so it's not surface pressure at least. Nonetheless, there's a weak positive through the week beginning Thursday, the 18th of August. Looks as though high pressure is going to be centered to our west, if this is right. Moving forwards to the following week, the anomaly has strengthened, apart from the northwest there, where it's very close to the norm. Possibly high pressure moving eastwards from the Atlantic across the UK, maybe even becoming centered in continental Europe, and that would lead to those higher temperatures returning. That's reflected by these anomaly charts, which are showing the 850 HPA temperature forecasts for week beginning Thursday, the 18th of August. Generally positive, only a little bit though, just 1 or 2 Celsius above the 30-year norm. Remember, these are generated by averaging out all of the runs in the GEFS 35. Going forwards to the week beginning the 25th, the positive anomaly has strengthened. The pinks and reds have become deeper, so temperatures are rising at this point compared to the previous week, and it's actually quite unusual in my experience to see this sort of trend. Generally, the further ahead that you look, the closer to the average these anomalies get. The anomalies become smaller moving forwards. In this case, they've become bigger, so it's quite clearly suggesting a warm-up through the last week of August. So, to summarise, the first half of the month, generally dry in the south, but in the north and especially the northwest, there is a risk of rain at times. Temperatures above the average, and in southern and central regions it is expected to become very warm or even hot. Values into the low 30s Celsius are likely, and the mid 30s is not out of the question. But towards the middle of the month it may be starting to turn cooler. The second half of August, potentially cooler early on, but temperatures often above the norm, and towards the end it could become very warm or even hot once more in the south. Drier than average, especially in the south, with a greater chance of rain in the north and the northwest. Having said that, there is a possibility of thunderstorms in southern and central regions, and that could result in large local variations in the amounts of rain. So, there we have it. If you like very warm and dry weather, then it could well be that this year summer has saved its best for last. Nonetheless, I realise that many people don't, and also the lack of rain, especially in southern counties, is becoming a very big concern. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thank you for watching now. Bye.